One of the things Kerry wanted to talk about was a group that he thought might help. Do you want to talk to them about that, Kerry? And maybe you can help us with this?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things, and you might be able to help more on one than the other. But the one preliminary thing we're looking at, we're interested in cases that involve a disease called Inclusion Body Myositis. You might be hearing more about that from us. Just putting this out there for now in case anybody is listening that happens to be diagnosed with it. It's rare. It's a form of myositis. It is the best way to explain it is ALS in slow motion. Okay, it's not considered fatal like ALS is, although it technically is. All right, it's going to take years rather than a short period of time like ALS, but it will eventually, most likely, end up in you in a wheelchair, loss of use of the upper and lower extremities, dysphagia, but it's a slower process. The reason we're interested in this is
So,
because
Kerry, before you start,
yeah,
tell them what the symptoms are because they may not know how ALS affects you or.
the symptoms initially are very mild, are very subtle. Could be weakness in an extremity, mild weakness in an extremity, be it the hands or the feet or swallowing, but eventually progressing into something that you cannot ignore. Weakness to the point where you can't walk. Major neuropathies, trouble breathing, trouble swallowing. It eventually basically paralyzes you, but slowly.
And what do
Uh,
they call this again?
Inclusion Body Myositis, IBM. Think of the computer, IBM.
Okay.
All right, that's what it is. And the reason we're interested is because it appears, based on some preliminary research done by some pretty reputable doctors, that this is almost genetically identical to ALS when it comes to pathophysiology, right? And so try to stay with me here. In ALS, years ago, they were looking at golf. I'll just give you the 10-minute version. Years ago, they were working on Gulf War presumptions, and they were looking at ALS because it appeared that more Gulf War vets were coming down with ALS than the rest of the veteran population and the rest of the country. Once that report really came to light, VA realized no, we're not talking just Gulf War vets, we're talking all vets. Right?
Right.
All vets with active duty service had a higher rate of ALS, a statistically significantly higher rate of ALS than the civilian population. Nobody knew why. Nobody still knows why. Okay, what they believe it's some kind of exposure. Military folks are getting exposed to something on a mass scale. Maybe it's just general exposures. You're just doing stuff in a more dangerous environment, a more toxic environment, but they don't know exactly why that is. It appears IBM falls into the same scenario where whatever is causing ALS, they think is causing IBM. If that's the case, we might be able to go after service connection on these cases the same way, not the same way as ALS, but on the same basis.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's hard to follow. One's a presumption, one's not. Um, we would have to frame the case as whatever caused ALS is likely caused this. If we can point to a specific exposure in a particular case, that gives us a little more something to bite on because the medical experts are unsure on the exact cause, uh, just like they are unsure on the cause of ALS. It opens the door for a broader range of possible causes, and because we only need to meet the benefit of the doubt standard when the rubber meets the road, that means we can probably position some of these cases to get granted even though there's no express exposure to a certain thing and no express link from the IBM to that certain thing. Now there are some board decisions that where the board has granted service connection for this, but so we're, obviously there's not a lot of people out there with this disease, but if you know of anybody, if you happen to have it, and you just think, there's no reason filing for this, don't think that. We would like to take on the case, and this is, you can always try to do it yourself. I say more power to you, but it would be a tough case. So this is the kind of ground floor level that we want to go after this thing on.
ALS for years was not presumptive, and it was only through work of people to get it presumptive. The problem I can see with this is getting it diagnosed. I can see so many people only going to a general practitioner and they say, I don't know what you have, or whatever. They don't get to see a neurologist, and maybe some neurologists misdiagnose. So I think one of their problems is going to be getting a correct diagnosis. But if you have all these symptoms, I think they should go out and see if they can get this diagnosed. And then they definitely should they file a claim, come to us, come to somebody to get them to help, because it's not going to go away. And I think this is one of the things that we see. We see veterans not knowing they have it. We see veterans not getting benefits for it, not even filing for it. So what we're trying to do is let you know this is out there. This is something we think we can help with. And if you have this or know anyone, please come to us.